Hey everyone, my name is Dave Parker with Breaking Audio. Today we're going to talk a bit about granular synthesis, what it is, and some things you can do with it. If you like videos with production tips on Pro Tools, Ableton, and more, definitely subscribe to our channel and you won't miss a video. So let's check it out. So I have a few examples here of some work I've done recently using granular synthesis, but let's first talk about what granular synthesis is. It's a little debatable whether it's really synthesis or not. I prefer to think about it more as maybe a sampler, re-synthesizing an existing sound, right? Because usually a synth is going to be creating sound from an oscillator or something like that. So it's not actually generating sound, it's kind of remangling sound. So I have here Ableton's Granulator 2. It's part of, it's a Max for Live device. It's a free one if you get Ableton Suite, I believe. And this one's rather simple. There's other plugins out there. I also have Arturia's Pigments that has a granular engine in it as well, which is really interesting because you can also use it alongside a regular synth engine and do a lot more with it. But this one I'm going to use because it's very fast. It's because it's drag and drop, and I don't have to have another plugin window open. It's just drop stuff and go. So we're going to have a look at this real quick. Not a full walkthrough of what it can do, but I'm just going to kind of cover granular synthesis in general. Here I've got a folder, actually multiple folders here, of sounds that I thought would be cool to put in, the Granulator or Pigments, and I collected a bunch of sounds that might be interesting to, re-synthesize or mangle here. So let's have a look at a particularly strange one, because why not? Go ahead and drag that bizarre thing into the Granulator. Different granular synths may have different features, but most of them will have the ability, all of them will have the ability to pick a position, as you can see here, highlighted, a position in the wave file, and the size of that position. And basically what this is going to do is this is going to play back similar to like a tape loop, except there's like a bunch of different tapes playing back, right? So let's have a listen to that. Right? And we can scan through. Totally weird, it's great. We can play a big chunk of this if we want. Multiple tape loops playing back at once, right? We can also hone in on a particular section and go really, really small with it, or really granular with it is another way to put that. So now we're super tiny. And we've made a playable synth sound out of our totally bizarre sound. We can play chords and everything, and put an arpeggiator in front of it, why not, whatever. But then I can also mess with it while I'm playing, right? So in this case it gets super weird. But so you can be like, whoopsie. Yeah, we're getting super weird. We can try it like way low in octaves. Now, one thing to point out with this though is because you're resynthesizing anything, like whatever audio file you want to throw in there, it's not necessarily in tune, right? So when I'm on the keyboard and I'm playing a C, I mean, there's no way that's a C. I'm sure, unless it's purely coincidental. So this can be the tricky part. You want to tune these. You're going to have to tune this almost all the time. So I'm going to grab Ableton's tuner here. And this can be rather tricky. Okay, right. See, so sometimes it doesn't necessarily like what you're giving it. Right, so in this case, it's not really liking it. So what you might want to do is you might want to actually throw another synth alongside of this. I mean, that was a pretty bizarre sound, but throw another synth alongside of it and try to tune it to the other synth to try to get a usable note. You could also try to maybe find a better spot. All right, well, we've managed to find a spot that works. So sometimes that can be rather difficult. And, you know, it's worth pointing out that I'm using a particularly bizarre sound. I went for the hardest thing I could possibly try to tune. But, you know, basically, yeah, whatever. You know, I mean, it sounds pretty mangled. It sounds pretty digital, lo-fi. And that's what it kind of is going to sound like. I mean, that's granular for you, really. So some things that are, you know, good to try to use on this are, you know, filtering out a little bit. Maybe, you know, filtering out some highs, because that might sound particularly fake or whatnot. You can also, of course, play with amp envelopes, you know. This one will actually allow you to introduce some FM, frequency modulation, which can be fun and bizarre sounding and dirty. So, you know, even more crazy. I tend to use this for really abstract stuff, and not so much trying to create a new keyboard sound, because, I mean, honestly, if I wanted a straight up keyboard sound, there's plenty of ways of getting way better keyboard sounds. But let's pop over to another example here. This is something more along the lines of what I would do typically. Let's have a listen to the source file. That would be this one. So just a loop that I got from somewhere. I have no idea where. It was in my sample library. I would not normally use such a thing because I just write my own part. But I thought it might be interesting to try in a granular synth, so I dropped it into my folder here of stuff that's typically pretty mangled. This is my mangled folder. But yeah, I was able to get some kind of cool atmospheric stuff. I tuned it. Here's the sound. It's close to being tuned. We're going to call that good enough. So I've got something I can kind of mess with here, but I'm not really going to play a part with this because it's a little bit too granular sounding, right? So I can get a better keyboard sound than that from somewhere else. So what makes this interesting and creative is the fact that I can move the file position while I hold the note down. So maybe what I want to do is play it very differently than I would normally play a synth, right? So I'm just going to hold the note down and I'm going to move around through the notes that are here in the file. Okay, so now we're in the realm of like stuff I can't easily do with a regular synth, right? So this is the stuff that I mostly use this for because it's just the coolest. So I gave it a little bit of help with some echo, and let's just kind of have a listen. So that's really cool. That stuff I can do all day. I can throw stuff in here, either go for really nice atmospheric stuff like that, or go for just totally mangled, bizarre stuff, because that's so easy to achieve, you know? You just dial in some FM. Really inharmonic weirdness. So let's have a look at a couple examples of some things I've made recently. I have a video clip here, right? So this is part of a larger project. I just took the slices out to use as examples. So as you can see here, you know, there's lots of like lines and stuff, and I thought maybe strings, and I was thinking maybe, I can make something with like the string tension sound. You could kind of hear a little bit of that in the last sample that I played there. When I hit the transient of the note, it kind of got like a little that kind of stuff. I thought that'd be kind of cool to put in here. So I went through, I dug around through my sounds, and I put something in here. I put a high pass on it, and yeah, let's just check it out. Right, so, you know, you can hear now that I've kind of showed you how I would come to that result. I probably don't even really need to go over how I did it. But a second example would be, I was kind of going for something more computer sounding, garbled, you know, staticky, almost like internet, like dial-up type of a thing. And I found an audio file with some of those types of manglings, and I just kind of remangled it and got this. kind of a little bit of a sonar kind of blip in there as well. So you can get pretty creative with it. I find I kind of always seem to find uses for this thing. Sometimes, especially in the realm of sound design, specifically. Sometimes in music, but like my example earlier, with the atmospheric kind of part where I was kind of scanning through it, that's the type of thing I might do in music. And it really works for sound design too. Pitching stuff way low. I would try stuff like pitch stuff way low. You can get some really interesting bass sounds, by the way. Stuff that sounds similar to like maybe like a wavetable synth where you're scanning the wave file and you're making the bass kind of wow and do something really weird like that. You can get some really interesting sounds like this. However, also back to the tuning thing, it can be a little bit difficult to wrestle into tune, but if you work at it enough, you can get it and have everything make sense. A good way to manage this when recording, strategies for that, I would record on a MIDI track with the automation on and kind of record all my automation movements. Where I can go back and edit, but it's a little bit weirder than a regular synth situation, because in a normal synth situation you'd have a MIDI note on the MIDI piano roll representing each note. With the granulator, you might only be pressing and holding a note and sweeping with a knob to select your different notes. So it can get a little bit strange to go back and edit it, and you can hone in on some very particular places if you'd like, but it definitely makes editing interesting. And a lot of times when I'm done, what I'll do is I'll kind of save that track the way it is, record it into an actual audio file, and then maybe further edit there for like timing reasons and stuff, because this is kind of an unruly beast. You can get some really, really cool results out of it, but between the tuning and the timing, you're probably going to want to end up burning it to an audio track to further edit it and get the desired results, and just kind of, instead of just like letting it fly, Some other uses that are really cool, you can take, let's say you developed like a drum loop or something, render that to an audio file, drag it straight in, and then you're doing like glitchy beat stuff that, again, you would want to render to a real audio file, cut up, and then drop into your project, as needed. But it's a really cool way to get atmospheres and all that kind of stuff. If you have any more questions about granular synth, let me know in the comments and whatnot. I didn't go deep on the granulator itself. I'm just trying to cover broad terms, broad concepts really and uses for it. But it's a fun one, so definitely check it out and, have fun. I'll see you next time. Peace.